Hey YouTube, so I'm fixing to do some maintenance on my 30-gallon aquarium here. It's gotten a little bit overgrown, so this one for the most part I kind of just leave alone and let it kind of naturally fill in, like have a bit of a natural look. But as it kind of overcrowds, some of the plants and things kind of get out of shape, I gotta come in and clean it up every couple of weeks. So, I'm just going to show you a little bit of the way I trim it. Just a real quick trim here. And I use the most important tool of all. Every planted Aquarius should have this tool readily available, and that'd be this. Anyway, just for a real quick trim, easiest thing in the world is come in here and just start plucking things out by hand. Simplest thing in the world. But I get asked a lot, kind of, how I keep these tanks up or do certain things. So I figured right now would just be a perfect opportunity for an update. So as you can see right here, this is some of the giant hair grass that I got growing in the back right here. It pops up all the way throughout the tank, and wherever I don't want it, simply enough, I can just pull it out. And if it doesn't come all the way up, see this one, the roots came out. Normally, I could take this out and replant it in another tank. But this one I'm having a little bit of a problem with. If y'all can see this. There's a little bit of thread algae in it, so I'm not going to save that. Because I don't want to take a chance of getting that in the big 200-gallon. Because I will never be rid of this stuff. So pull a couple of these pieces out. This stuff over here, this stuff grows like wildfire. Well, spreads like wildfire, I should say. Oop. A big chunk of that's been knocked loose. We'll plant this. We'll put this back in with tweezers. Can't do that with my hands. So we'll just let it float up there for a minute. Anyway, this stuff, all I do with it, same thing. Just grab it, rip it out. Somewhere it's spreading, I don't want it. Rip it out. I can take this whole piece and use tweezers, set it somewhere else if I want to save it. But for the most part, I destroy it and get rid of it so don't spread to a local water system or waterway. But just pull these little bits off. This bit at the end where it's showing this real pretty red color, I can try and save these, or I can just rip them off, and this undergrowth where it's green, in about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, it'll start to turn red and it'll kind of grow out, so it'll come back. It'll start to develop. But as you can see, this algae stuff, oh, it's terrible. It likes to just grow up in all this, clump up in all this undergrowth. It's nasty stuff. So anyway, then I'll work on thinning that out some. Probably do a little bit more of that in a minute, so I won't run out of video. Just want to give you an idea of what I do. Over here, this plant I got in the middle, it's kind of shooting out of place. So all I do is these, instead of ripping these out, I don't want to rip these out, because since they're rooted in real well, I'll wind up ripping all this up with it. I simply just kind of want to grab them, kind of gently work them back because they're all attached. Let's see, they're kind of hooked out. Just kind of push them back into the group and get them from, they're kind of shooting out and trying to get light. But I don't want them overtaken out here, so I'm going to push them back up in the group. I'm going to try and work this back some. Push it back. What I'll have to do with some of these, what I can't get to work back easily, I'll wind up cutting some of the real tall ones out of the very back and try and grab down low and scoot some of the root system back towards that back panel of glass to make some more room here for these plants so they're not so overcrowded, because I don't want this kind of looming over so much. I want to free up this swimming space here. But see, like this plant's gotten so tall, if I stand it up, it's actually out of the water, so every so often I have to trim these at the base and then kind of reset them down if they're nice, if they're kind of ate up, because once these get old, some of the lower leaves get ate up and they get kind of raggedy. I'll just completely remove it, and eventually newer shoots will kind of fill in and take their place. Anyway, they're kind of recovering now, because I did about 2 months ago. I cleared most of this out, and it was looking pretty ratty for a while. Like, here's one that I trimmed. I'll just pull that out so you can see. Here's one where I just lobbed it off at the top. As you can see how like ratty these are. That's where some of the kind of dead leaves were. The snails have ate all the dead off it. So, I mean, it's still alive, and this will grow new shoots off of it, but I got so much of it and it grows so aggressively, I can afford to just chuck that in the bucket. And then all this bit floating up on my intake. Just grab it, in the bucket it goes. What's nice about kind of doing it this way though, just plucking it out by hand, once I've, after getting this kind of well-established growth, it doesn't take as long for everything to kind of recover as far as having a natural look, because what I'm sure some of you have noticed who have some decent growth, when you go in and trim everything and you have all these clean cut lines from your scissors and you've kind of gone in and really kind of cut away at everything, I don't know, it's just everything so sharp and clean and cut, it's real obvious you've gone in and done work, and it's like a freshly mowed lawn and trimmed shrubs. Well, in a yard, it looks nice because that's what you expect, human intervention. But in a tank where you want it to, I want this to look natural, like it just kind of grew up. I don't want it to be obvious that, other than the fact it's an aquarium, but I want it to look, like I said, natural. And if you see a bunch of scissor marks and things like that, it takes away from that. So always before, when I would trim the tanks, it'd take a week or two for everything to kind of grow and fall back into place. If I come in with my hand though and kind of just rip things out and pull it out at random, it's not as clean, it's not as crisp, but within a day or two, everything kind of falls back into place. Everything kind of gets its natural flow back a little bit quicker, and it's not as long of a recovery. And trimming like this, it's a lot less time consuming. I mean, I actually got to run out the door here shortly, so all I got to do is, a few minutes here or there, pull out a couple pieces. Then if I come back later and see like, oh, I missed something, or that's not looking quite right, or this little piece is out of place, I can just reach my hand in the aquarium real quick and pluck it out, or maybe move something around. And, no big deal. Nothing's worse than cutting something out and then later realizing you shouldn't have cut it out, because it takes a lot longer for a plant to grow back into place than just leaving it and removing it later. So, always, remove the least amount you can. That's for sure. But anyway, that's just kind of a quick look at how I do this. Then I'll come back through with my tweezers. And these guys, these little plants down here, again, I don't have all the names off the top of my head, y'all. Sorry about that. But I just kind of take my tweezers. These things always, they start growing up real big and tall. I just take my tweezers and just set them back down. And usually what happens is these stems will break off at the bottom, and they kind of reset and grow new stems. And then the old stems might pop new shoots off, and they kind of multiply like that. But eventually, some of them, like this one, started out as a little tiny one, and then it'll just start getting crazy tall, and then I'll break it, and it'll wind up growing a whole new shoot. But like this one, actually, well, it's set in there pretty good. This one's started to get pretty tall, so they've been multiplying pretty good. But I like them. They kind of hold all this other taller stuff back and separate it off the grass. So anyway, there's just a real quick, that's just kind of how I keep everything in check. Just a little bit, there we go, just grab a handful. And then just a little bit of a comb through. And hell, it's almost like I wasn't even there. All right. 3/4 of the way done. Quick update on that. I'm gonna finish this up with 2 hands and put the top back on and give you a better update in the future with the tank all together and clean. Y'all have a great weekend.